democracy, which is this clash between power, who gets it, how we hand it out, and accountability, which is always tested more in how we deal with the powerful rather than everybody else. So I say that as a bit of an opening. I hope it's not too grandiose, but a big picture thought. And right now we are going to turn to something we've prepared for you to begin tonight, to begin this special, and that is how we all went through this from when it first started to break on that day I mentioned, Thursday, May 30th.
We have a verdict in the criminal trial of Donald Trump.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty.
Breaking news, Donald Trump found guilty on at least five of the 34 charges so far.
That just stopped me in my tracks. I can hear the cheering. Tell us what's happening.
There's an eruption from the...
Guilty on 1 through 5. 1 through 12 we have now.
No one is above the law. Trump is not above the law.
It's accountability. It's exactly what America needs right now. We need for accountability to be had by all those that break the law.
Those jurors were chosen by both sides.
Yes. Count 20, guilty. Count 21, guilty. Count 22, guilty.
I think we can feel proud that the system of justice and the rule of law within liberal democracy has survived.
Count 33 and 34, guilty. Found guilty on all 34 felony counts.
The breaking news, Donald Trump guilty in the so-called hush money criminal trial.
The historic conviction of former President Donald Trump.
The first former president of the United States convicted on criminal charges.
It took a jury a little less than 10 hours to find Mr. Trump guilty on all 34 counts.
The test for us now as a country is whether or not this former president and his allies will have succeeded in trying to undermine the rule of law so that people reject this as a legitimate function of the rule of law in our country.
That is the rule of law, 34 felony counts. The defendant turned convict, looked worn down, even more morose than usual, and we've watched him. I've been an eyewitness in that courtroom. He definitely looked like it registered for him, even if he is a well-known performer, when he exited the courtroom. In Lower Manhattan, there was a mixed mood as the news first began to spread. We've seen people gathered there in relatively small crowds throughout the process. There were supporters reacting with disbelief of the defendant. There were others celebrating, in fact, some more people with the signs of lock him up, jumpsuits, and other types of agitprop came out as this news broke. The rule of law did hold. That's more significant than any commentary or complaints about it. The defendant stands convicted of these felony counts by a jury of his peers. The verdict, front page news all over the world. We might forget sometimes how many people around the world are following this, sometimes closer than some of our fellow citizens. Belgium, Brazil, Canada, Ireland, the Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, the UK. That's just some of those assorted headlines I'm showing you. Front pages galore. Trump found guilty was how the paper of record in Washington put it. The Wall Street Journal, owned by Fox News' News Corp, Trump convicted. No way to spin the basic fact. The LA Times, Trump guilty on all counts. In Miami, a city in where the former president now resides, Florida, guilty. Ex-President Donald Trump convicted on all 34 counts in hush money case. The New Yorker, known to come with a quick, thoughtful, cartoonish spin, showing the possibility of this president, his cartoon hands, potentially handcuffed, although sentencing will wait for July. In New York, where the tabloids have long danced with this figure, you can see guilty and guilty in two of them. In the New York Post, one of the only papers, going farther, as I mentioned in the Wall Street Journal, to take a different spin. Rather than beginning with the facts, they began with the take. They view the rule of law, a jury of his peers, the process having played out as, quote, injustice. Donald Trump's hometown paper, the small Queens Daily Eagle, went with an old school way to put it, Queens man convicted. That Queens man is just that, a man, a person, a citizen. He has rights as a convict, just as he had rights as a defendant. He's expected, of course, to appeal. They're saying they're going to do that. As for the president who replaced Donald Trump, he's also speaking out. He rarely does on this topic, but now that there is a verdict, he spoke about it for the first time.
I just want to say a few words about what happened yesterday in New York City. The American principle that no one is above the law was reaffirmed.
Reaffirmed and reaffirmed against something that some of the optimists and politicians didn't acknowledge as much, that of these 4 different indictments I mentioned, 3 have been effectively punted, delayed, and whittled down to not get to the public or to a jury by the election. And while it shouldn't matter if sometimes there are some delays, the election does matter when the crimes in question involve a coup to overthrow the government, a RICO charge for a related crime to overthrow the election, and in this case, which at one point wasn't clear whether it would go first or not, or go at all, a crime for the original Electoral College election of Donald Trump, which is now classified as part of a campaign conspiracy. We turn to presidential historian Douglas Brinkley and Vanity Fair's Molly Jong-Fast. We can't always do justice to history, but we can slow down a bit and feel something has just happened. How do you take this in?
Well, you know, I was at University of Delaware, and Jordan Klepper was there, the comedian. He came on stage, and it was everybody had that advance notice. It was like punches. 1 and 2, 3, 4, and because there was that advance notice, everybody kind of leaned forward, I think, in the country to find out what was going to happen. And it's devastating. President Trump now is in this rare ivory tower of the only president charged with 34 felony accounts, as he's got to roll into a debate and roll into the Milwaukee Convention. And he can frame it any way he wants. It's a terrible embarrassment. There's nobody that gets hit with felonies that feels good with it. I thought for a minute, even though he was mopey out of the court, I thought history will show that he kind of pulled himself together and showed this iota of dignity. And then here today he is probably breaking the gag order, mocking people. Jurors now have to be fearful. So it's, again, the authoritarian tactics of Trump to intimidate anybody and everybody that doesn't agree with his will. That's going to look like in history that this is the time, the beginning of the end of Donald Trump, in the sense of this isn't 2 impeachments. These are our peers and 24 Americans. If we can't trust our jury system in this country, we can't get behind that, then there is no American democracy. So I think Biden should say a few things, but just let Trump kind of melt on this.
Molly, I want to show some of how it's playing out. As we mentioned, there's different ways people absorb things, but we have the 34th Street subway station there. That's 34, but matches the counts guilty. There were New Yorkers. Again, this is where the jury occurred, chalking it up. I think it speaks to the clarity. Legally, we can say, Molly, that there's different levels, but 34 and 0 is a lot. This is one of those memes you can see where you have why Donald Trump's being prosecuted, because he committed crimes, or the MAGA response. Again, you can go back to cave paintings, Douglas, but memes here, this is one echoing Game of Thrones, and then the gold sneaker that he was touting earlier this year, now equipped with the ankle bracelet you sometimes see on house arrest. Finally, the dad jokes are there as well. 34 counts.
Look, this is a person who has evaded accountability his entire life. And what I thought Biden did, which was quite smart, was that he, right now we have a moment in American history where one party believes in democracy and another party really has embraced an autocrat. And so what Biden did, which I think was really a good move, was he said, the law is the law for everyone. If this was a jury of his peers, this was a case brought by a DA, this was, we saw his witnesses, we saw the lawyer, do everything that's supposed to happen in a courthouse. And in the end, they found Donald Trump guilty. And Trump's lawyer, Todd Blanche, did, I think, have a client who directed him to do a lot of things which may not have helped. Trump always thinks that candidate Trump helps defendant Trump. And I think yet again, we have seen that candidate Trump is not helpful for defendant Trump. But, Trump has really mashed these things together, the legal system, his quest for power, his quest to stay in office. And I thought Biden did a good job of just getting in there and then getting out.
We also have, Douglas, this image here of folks embracing here, excited about this, because for some people this is a big moment yesterday. That was outside, and of course you have your VJ Day memories.
You know, and you realize that people are just, we're watching each time Trump's almost busted on something, and it doesn't happen, and it doesn't happen. So I think expectations were kind of low, like, oh, it could be a hung jury. So when this came over, it really hit people in a very, very profound way. I know there's a consensus because the Republicans have coalesced around Trump by and large, all of them quickly, because he is their nominee. But it's going to look like a McCarthyism gone mad. I mean, you know, this is a guy, Trump, who started with, remember Trump University, and to suddenly put him as a public virtue, or that he's the face of integrity and that he's being mistreated by the justice system's absurd. He's been just pushing and pushing for this moment to happen over and over again in his career. The strange part people are going to wonder is, how did he get away with it so long? And
well, right, he didn't get away with this. I mean, that's why at the end of the day, we're talking about whether they request jail and how he deals with that, and that hangs over him, and he's going to have to keep thinking about that. And anything that cuts up close to the convention, he has tried to delay every case as much as possible. So he is the one that brought it colliding with the campaign season as much as anyone else. So it really is a time where you say, as you mentioned, the history, McCarthyism, autocratic challenges, other challenges we've had. You can ask anyone from a marginalized community. You can ask minorities and women about how the legal system works and how it has to update itself with our mores and our modern equality. So it's not the first time we've seen this, but it is beating back his effort to exempt himself. Douglas and Molly, I appreciate you kicking us off on our special. I want to tell folks what's coming up, because as you may have seen on your screen, Bob Woodward is our special guest tonight. He has not done many interviews recently. He's not one to speak out much during an open news story or trial, but he is our special guest here tonight. You will hear from Bob Woodward, the Watergate icon, on now the first president since Nixon to have this level of legal problems and a conviction that Nixon never got because of his pardon. So that's coming up. But next, my breakdown on how New York DA Alvin Bragg won and beat Trump where so many others failed. That's in 90 seconds.
Compared with other chews, one Brevecto chew protects from fleas and ticks for 12 weeks, nearly 3 times longer.
Use with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurological disorders. Protection that lasts longer? Bravo, Brevecto. Bravo.
Everybody wants super straight, super white teeth. They want that Hollywood white smile. New Sensodyne Clinical White provides 2 shades whiter teeth and 24/7 sensitivity protection. I think it's a great product. It's going to help a lot of patients.
Smile, you found it. The feeling of finding psoriasis can't filter out the real you. So go ahead, live unfiltered with the one and only Sotyktu, a once-daily pill for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis and the chance at clear or almost clear skin. It's like the feeling of finding you're so ready for your close-up, or finding you don't have to hide your skin, just your background. Once daily Sotyktu was proven better, getting more people clearer skin than the leading pill. Don't take if you're allergic to Sotyktu. Serious reactions can occur. Sotyktu can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB. Serious infections, cancers including lymphoma, muscle problems, and changes in certain labs have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, liver or kidney problems, high triglycerides, or had a vaccine or plan to. Sotyktu is a TYK2 inhibitor. TYK2 is part of the JAK family. It's not known if Sotyktu has the same risks as JAK inhibitors. Find what plaque psoriasis has been hiding. There's only one Sotyktu, so ask for it by name. So clearly you. Sotyktu.
Welcome back. We have the legendary Pulitzer Prize-winning Watergate reporter Bob Woodward coming up. But before I turn to him, there's something we haven't had time to do since this conviction came down, even in our coverage over many hours with Rachel and Nicole and the whole team and Michael Cohen, and that is just a slightly deeper look at how we got here in this case versus all the others. There was nothing inevitable about this. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District did involve themselves with part of this case. Of course, they prosecuted Cohen. They declined to file any Trump charges from that case. The first Manhattan DA probed these charges for years and didn't make a move one way or the other. Didn't make a declination. That's where you say it's over. And didn't charge, just kind of left office, leaving it pending. There was criticism for that, understandably. DA Bragg had to come into that gray area. He took over, The indictment was at that time considered unlikely. Indeed, you lived through this, you followed the news, you may remember a lot of people said given Jan 6 and then the classified documents case and all the energy around those things as it was all heating up, there wasn't necessarily a view that this 2015 related campaign crime should go first or go at all. And then when the DA did bring charges, there were many who downplayed them.
At least in my judgment of all the cases, this is the weakest one substantively.
This is a very weak case.
This is the wrong case at the wrong time.
As a matter of law, these charges are the weakest.
Chances of a unanimous conviction are like 10 to 15%.
Well, I think your analysis is spot on. At this point, I think that the odds of a hung jury are high.
I think that the case is in many ways stale at this juncture.
This trial legally is very weak and the facts are very weak.
I don't think there's anybody in America who thinks this is a seriously strong case.
Alvin Bragg is now sweating even more than usual. His pathetically weak case against former President Trump has totally imploded.
We're talking about a case that the feds across the street, my former office, the famously aggressive Southern District of New York, reviewed 2 years ago and said, no thanks, we pass.
The New York City, the Manhattan case involving Bragg and the hush payments is the weakest criminal case I've ever seen in 60 years of practicing and teaching criminal law.
The case was actually strong enough to win against all prior precedent because no one's ever gone this far against a former president. And it was constructed in a way to move, to get to a jury unlike the other cases. Now, it is worth hearing all these views. Indeed, if you do journalism, you're going to talk to both sides and more, and so you're going to get differing views. But I'm just showing that to remind you there were a lot of people, including some legal experts, who were all but dismissing this as a, quote, weak case going nowhere. It's now the only case to hit a jury, and not only that, as you now know, to convict defendant Trump. Bragg was clearly not deterred. He spoke through his actions, he moved forward, he avoided the press, he kept his cards close to the vest when he did his rare interviews, including when we were able to speak to him on the beat.
Less than 2 weeks before the presidential election, Michael Cohen wired $130,000 to Stormy Daniels' lawyer. That payment was to hide damaging information from the voting public. The scheme violated New York election law.
Investigation's ongoing. This is one chapter. I caution people against reading ahead, but the work continues. The work never stops.
I did my job. We did our job. Many voices out there. The only voice that matters is the voice of the jury, and the jury has spoken.
Fact check, true. In our system, when there are criminal prosecutions, it is only the jury that matters, not the criticism, although we're all free to debate it in public, and not even the DA, although this DA has proven himself quite effective, the only one to win against defendant Trump. That is a look at how we got here. Coming up in this special edition of The Beat, we look at the larger history being made. The legendary journalist Bob Woodward, my special guest, next.
So I didn't think I needed Swiffer until I saw how easily it picked up my hair every time I dried it. It only takes a minute. Look at that. The heavy-duty cloths are extra thick for amazing trap and lock, even for his hair. Wow. And for dust, I love my heavy-duty duster. The fluffy fibers trap dust on contact, up high and all around without having to lift a thing. I'm so hooked. You'll love Swiffer or your money back.
Childhood cancer it's hard, but St. Jude has gotten us through it. St. Jude is hope for every child diagnosed with cancer because the research is being shared all over the world.
For the most comfortable, luxurious, eco-friendly, and affordable, handcrafted American-made mattresses on the market today. Delivered and set up in any room of your house. Saatva, luxury mattresses made affordable.
Stay tuned to get this free 5-piece Ultra Non-Stick Bakeware set from Gotham Steel. Yours free. That's right, absolutely free. Is your cookware scratched inside and an eyesore on the outside, ruining your kitchen's appearance? Well, get ready to upgrade your cookware to this beautiful hammered design. Introducing Gotham Steel Hammered Cream Cookware. Forged with an authentic hammered design, engineered with extremely strong titanium and tri-coated with ultra non-stick ceramic. The elegant hammered texture design will look gorgeous in your kitchen and even better on the table. Style is just the start because Gotham Steel features double the non-stick release. Food simply will not stick, and it wipes clean with ease. Now you can cook healthier without all the butter, fat, or oil.
I just love this hammered look. It fits my kitchen perfectly. All I can say is wow.
Gotham Steel is designed to deliver totally uniform cooking, even in the oven up to 500 degrees. And it's dishwasher safe. Upgrade the look of your kitchen and cook with double the non-stick release with Gotham Steel Hammered Cream.
I've never had a cookware set that looks so beautiful. Plus, it's non-stick. Can't go wrong with that.
Other hammered cookware sells for over $500, but get the complete Gotham Steel Hammered Cream 10-piece set for just 5 easy payments of $49.99. But hold everything. Order right now and we'll drop one payment. So it's only 4 easy payments of $49.99. Plus, you'll also get this 5-piece Gotham Steel bakeware set, the fast, easy, ultra non-stick way to bake your favorite desserts. That's a $60 value. Yours 100% free. Plus, free shipping on everything. So your first payment of $49.99 is all it takes to get this huge 15-piece set shipped free right to your door. Response has been overwhelming, so order now.
To order, call 1-800-574-4814. That's 1-800-574-4814. Or go to hammeredcream.com. So call 1-800-574-4814 or order online at hammeredcream.com.
Home Aglow showed up right on time and did my dishes, my laundry, they even cleaned my windows. I love that you just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
Dangerous ladders, gutter muck? Ugh, no wonder you hate cleaning your gutters. Good thing there's Leaf Filter. Our patented filter technology keeps leaves and debris out of your gutters forever. Guaranteed. Call 833-LEAF Filter to get started and get the permanent gutter solution that ends clogs for good.
They took the time to answer all of our questions. They really put us at ease.
End clogged gutters for good. Call 833-LEAF Filter or visit leaffilter.com today.
After Home Aglow cleaned our place for $19, we fired our old housekeeper. Home Aglow tackled everything from our kitchen to our bathroom, all our laundry. You just pick a date, pick a cleaner, and enjoy a spotless house for $19.
This conviction of Donald Trump on all 34 felony counts is history. It's the kind of breaking news that everybody witnesses together. And if you didn't watch it live through television or internet, the moments later, you look back on it and you start discussing it. It's just one of those moments. So we thought we would be remiss to not actually, beyond all the other things we've shown you and covered tonight before we turn to Bob Woodward, actually see on more than one channel, just in those first few moments, live or relive exactly how the first draft of history played out before the nation.
This is an NBC News special report.
A verdict has been reached in former President Donald Trump's New York criminal trial.
We are looking at count 1, guilty. Count 2, guilty. Count 3, guilty.
There are guilty verdicts from our producer inside. We're hearing guilty on 1 through 5. 1 through 12, we have now 13, 14, guilty.
Count 16. Donald Trump found guilty, 16 out of 16, when it comes to falsifying business records in the first degree.
Some cheers, some boos, as we are now getting the information from the jury. We're up to 18 counts, 19 guilty.
I'm being told the former president has been found guilty of counts 20 through 23, found guilty as well.
Count 23 guilty. Count 24 guilty.
Count 25 guilty. Count 26 guilty. Count 27, we're seeing that on the screen, guilty. Count 28 guilty. Those are the first 28 felony counts here as read by the jury. Count 29 guilty. Count 30 guilty. Count 31 guilty. Count 32 guilty. Count 33 and 34 guilty. That is Donald J. Trump, defendant in New York versus Donald Trump, found guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is how the news broke. We're joined by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Bob Woodward, associate editor at The Washington Post, known for reporting on the Watergate scandal that ultimately contributed to the end of the Nixon presidency. Also very relevant tonight, the author of the Trump tapes, where he interviewed then-President Trump 20 times. He's also the author of over 20 other books, including books on the last 10 presidents. Bob, I really appreciate you joining us tonight at this pivotal time. Thank you. Your thoughts on the verdict?
Well, you know, I've been obviously thinking about this, and I think what's so important is the criminal conviction, but also there's a subtext to all of this, and that is it has shattered the camouflaged world and life that Trump has had. I mean, it is a body blow to that. And when I did these interviews with him in 2020, the last year of his presidency, I should have brought the audio of it, but this is a selection. So Trump comes on and he says, I have a reputation for not being willing to apologize. It's wrong. I will apologize if I'm wrong. I asked, when's the last time you apologized? Trump, oh, I don't know, but I think over a period I would apologize. Here's the thing, I'm never wrong. Now that's part of the camouflage, the clubbiness of, well, we know better, we joke about these things. The dagger has been put in this with this indictment and conviction. And just today, this morning, he's talking, and this is again the way he deals with the reality. This morning he talks about violent crime in New York City. He said at all levels, it's awful. Nobody's ever seen it this bad. Now, the facts are, back in 1990, there were 2,200 murders a year. It's down 83%. All crime is down. But in this cavalier way, you know, it's not that way. Well, he is wrong. And I think we're going to see the evaporation of that camouflage that he's been living in. And that's the other side of this. We're going to see, and we saw it this morning, he actually prepared a series of untruths to try to defend himself. And I know him very well, having done 3 books and spending the last year of his presidency talking to him. And this is a man who's lost his footing and he, in a sense, has lost his cover of that clubbiness.
We have times in our history where there's an ebb and flow of whether systems and the government leadership institutions are seen as working or not. And as I mentioned, you've covered and lived through much of that in your career. Do you see this as a potential return to that? There was so much hand-wringing over how to put a former president on trial, whether it would be fair. And I said this before the verdict, regardless of what it was, that we were going to honor it and the rule of law, that there were people on the jury who said they watch Fox News, they get their main information from Trump's Truth Social. And yet we came together and we got a verdict under the rule of law. Is that ultimately a good thing and a possible way forward?
Certainly, and I was really surprised. I didn't think that jury would be able to. It really. Wait a minute! They said the verdict is in. I couldn't believe it. I was sure there would be people on that jury who who are Trump supporters, and we know the Trump rule is you don't have to deal with facts. You just kind of do your own thing. And for them to come in and do this, I think it's a change in the whole spirit of the times. And I think not only does Trump have to deal with that, but I think this country has to deal with that. Hey, wait a minute. There is accountability. We're not gonna kind of skate around this. We're not gonna have, again, I say, that camouflage that, and Trump is the embodiment of that. And it's stripped away.
It's very interesting when you talk about that being stripped. The one direct comparison we'll make to Nixon is he left office under a cloud of investigation, but the pardon preempted that process. Now, I'll be careful to remind everyone that was a legal process because the president, even a successor with his own relationship, has that legal authority. But it did short-circuit what other things might have been. In this case, it is only the sovereign local prosecutor of a state that's doing this. The federal process is different. The Supreme Court slowed that down. And I want to play briefly some Nixon and Trump. Take a listen, Bob.
When the president does it, that means that it is not illegal.
You have to give a president full and total immunity.
This is a long-running clash between many presidents in both parties who say they honor the limits on the office and then some who don't. Your thoughts on all of that tonight, Bob?
Well, but the power here is a jury went away for a very short period of time, and be fascinated to hear them speak and how they reached this verdict. But the verdict leapt over a lot of history and expectation here, and I think it's obviously the conviction is a big moment, but this undermining of a system where somebody like Trump could protect himself, that, I mean, it's, to be direct, it's the boys' club. And the boys' club got shoved in the back room yesterday.
Journalism has an interplay with law enforcement. The police, the prosecutors, the FBI, if it's federal, they can't surveil and track everything. So as you know, there's an interplay, and sometimes it goes one way or the other, and who's finding information first. This now convicted felony crime, Bob, started with Donald Trump's effort to control and subvert media information through a tabloid that ultimately was exposed by journalists and then investigated both by the feds and now in New York. Your thoughts on that, and is it important that we continue to have independent investigative journalists who aren't looking at this through a party lens, but who are creating the information reservoir that then the system can assess?
But that journalism needs to not be partisan. It needs to be fact-driven. And in doing this for over 50 years, you often find somebody will tell you something, or there'll be a document, or there'll be a question from an editor of, well, what's really going on here? What's behind this? What does it mean? And if you have the freedom to explore that in a fact-driven journalism, there are going to be new dimensions. And this is not journalism doing this. This is the criminal justice system in one city. And where Trump was talking about, oh, well, all this crime is rampant. You know, he has a particular way of saying nobody's ever seen it as bad as it is now. And you kind of think, gee, maybe he's right. Well, in the case of crime in New York City, crime in cities throughout the country. It's down. It's down. It's radically down. And he can get on that sled of, well, nobody's ever seen anything like this. And even often my reaction, oh, well, maybe he's right that time. But he's wrong so often. So he's been exposed in a way that I think will endure, as will the criminal conviction.
Final question. You've known a lot of presidents professionally, and you talked to him more than most reporters got to, and we've discussed the Trump tapes previously. Do you think any of this, including the looming thought of house arrest or possible jail in the July sentencing, will affect him, will actually move him? Or does he remain impervious? People might say, who cares? But he's running for office and he could be president again, so his interplay with the justice system matters in many potential ways.
Really important question. And the Donald Trump we watched this morning, I know I watched and heard, I mean, I've spent really 6 or 7 years on this man and his presidency, and he was changed this morning. It was almost like these were not a series of spontaneous lies, but he had kind of laid them out in a way. He'd done some homework. Unfortunately, the homework is with lies and untruths. That's his style, but his style is normally not to do homework. I think this, you can see it in his face, but you could see it in his behavior this morning. And if you didn't know what the evidence might be, and I go back to that assertion about crime in New York City, no one's ever seen it this bad. Never. I mean, he was not just talking about the era we live in. He was talking about all of history. It's wrong. It's a lie. And any effort by a junior research assistant would show that's not true. Doesn't make any difference to him. So he's really been shattered. As I say, the camouflage that he's been living in has been cut to shreds.
Really striking hearing from you and Bob. There's a saying in Brooklyn, you could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. You're in demand. This is a big moment for America.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Bob. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. When we come back, we've done the lawyers, we've done some of the most iconic journalists around, but we go to an iconic storyteller, Rob Reiner, on where we're headed next.
Want to know a secret? More than just my armpits stink.
Facts. That's why I use Secret Whole Body Deodorant for clinically proven odor protection everywhere. So I smell great all day, all hike, and all night.
Secret Whole Body Deodorant.
In here, you can expect to find crystal clear audio, expansive display space, and more comfort for everyone. But we still left room for all the unexpected things you'll find out here. The new 2024 Grand Cherokee lineup. Jeep, there's only one.
Right now during the Jeep Memorial Day sales event, get the 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee starting at $38,290 MSRP. Visit Jeep.com for details.
The Keepsake Frames app makes it ridiculously easy to frame your favorite photos. Just choose a photo that you love, select the perfect frame, and we'll have your framed print delivered and ready to hang. Download the free Keepsake Frames app and start framing today.
This Father's Day, Dad deserves better, and nothing's better than cooking on a Blackstone. And join the more than 11 million Blackstone users. Your family will love every breakfast, lunch, and dinner you create with an enormous variety for your whole family. Cook anything, anytime, anywhere. Better on a Blackstone. Go to your nearest retailer or blackstoneproducts.com to start your adventure today and make everything better on a Blackstone.
Healthy blood pressure and CoQ10 support? It's super convenient thanks to the ingredients in Super Beets. And now new Super Beets Advanced Heart Chews with a clinically researched dose of CoQ10. Plus the grapeseed extract you love for 2-in-1 healthy blood pressure support. Why take CoQ10 separately when you can enjoy twice the benefits and the added power of CoQ10? The choice is simple. We're Super Beets, the #1 cardiologist recommended beet brand for heart health support. Get a free month supply on all bundles at trysuperbeets.com.
I'm Richard Karn, and I love my hose. It ain't those old hoses. This is my hose. The new Pocket Hose Copper Bullet, now infused with real copper, so your water is always clean and lead-free. Just turn on the water and watch your hose grow and grow. And when you turn off the water, away it goes. Our new inner tube uses 3 layers of high-strength latex on the inside. Then it's wrapped in a new polymer filament jacket, 3 times stronger than the other hoses. But my favorite part of our new hose build? The oversized, easy-to-grip fittings. Get the super light 25-foot Pocket Hose Copper Bullet today for only $29.99. But wait, call now and get our copper spray nozzle with our exclusive thumb drive free. This is an exclusive release of our newest Pocket Hose. Order now.
Call 1-800-407-7609. That's 1-800-407-7609. Or visit copperbullethose.com. Order now.
Okay, ready to watch this? 1 second, I gotta finish my laundry. Jess, it's girls' night. 1 second, I use Rinse.
What's Rinse?
The company that will pick up, wash, fold, and deliver your laundry and dry cleaning at the touch of a button.
I do not trust other people with my laundry.
Rinse guarantees your satisfaction. I've been using it for months now with no issues. Okay, let's watch this.
Wait, I'm gonna do my laundry.
Better hurry. Done. All scheduled.
Sign up for Rinse at rinse.com to get $20 off your first order.
If you're over 50, imagine you could turn back the clock on your stiff, achy joints by years.
On tour, I can't let sore joints hold me up, so I use Instaflex Advanced. It's restored my joints without just temporarily masking my symptoms. I told my whole crew they have to try it.
Get a complimentary sample by texting GLEAM to 231231. Instaflex Advanced targets the root cause of joint soreness and stiffness with a unique combination of 5 key natural ingredients found nowhere else. Key ingredients backed by 5 clinical studies.
Instaflex Advanced is so powerful. I had better knees in just 1 week.
Instaflex Advanced is the #1 selling joint brand at GNC, but you can only get your complimentary sample by texting GLEAM to 231231. Text now. It will include a tube of Instaflex pain cream for fast-acting relief in the pain of arthritis, backaches, and sore muscles, absolutely free. Text GLEAM to 231231 today.
Donald Trump has been convicted, and Rob Reiner, the Emmy winner, is our special guest. Rob, I want to ask you what this means for the story of America. You've done a lot of work in storytelling, directing, also political activism. We're going to put up some of the photos and some of the images that we're seeing around the country. It's easy in the era we live in now, and the memes. I'm starting right up with a Game of Thrones meme. But it's easy for us to get caught in this narrowly, when it's possible, as Bob Woodward just told us, that this could be a very broad thing. You know, your thoughts?
Well, you talk about it as a story, and this is just the first step of a story that has been percolating since Donald Trump entered the political sphere. He's been, since he came down that escalator, he's been taking a wrecking ball to the rule of law and the Constitution. As you pointed out earlier in the program, he's been impeached a couple of times, and we've seen not only this conviction, but a couple of federal indictments and the indictment down in Georgia. And this has been going on for quite a while. And we're seeing the denigration of 250 years of self-rule, democracy, the rule of law has been eroded, has been continually eroded. What this conviction represents is a first big step towards regaining our footing. And make no mistake, this is just the beginning. Now we have a federal election coming up on November 5th, and that will be, we had 12 jurors determining his innocence or guilt. They determined he was guilty. Now he's going to be facing the jury of America, the American jury. And as we know, as you know, it's not a, it's not a popular contest, a popularity vote. It doesn't work that way in America.
Let me ask you about the story.
We're going to have 10 million more votes. Biden's going to get 10 million more votes. But the people of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania will determine whether our democracy survives. So that's the story.
Let me ask you about the sweep.
Yeah.
We lawyers, we talk about, one felony count is a big difference than zero. But 5 to 1 is not a big difference. And if you want to get into sentencing, they're usually served concurrently, meaning you're not probably going to serve longer for more counts on the same felony. If you had a second different felony, like, okay, battery, that'd be different. So legally, I got to remind people it doesn't make a difference. But I'm wondering for you, with the story and the clarity, if this were split, if it were 15 and 15 or 20 and 10, does the fact that it's a clean sweep, do you think, matter in how this is understood and absorbed around the country?
I do think it matters. I think it matters. It's never going to matter to Trump's faithful. And we saw that represented by the feckless elected officials that just basically came out and trumpeted everything that Donald Trump was saying. But it will matter to people who are living in the world of reality and who respect the rule of law and who respect our Constitution and our 250 years of self-rule. Those people, I refuse to believe that a majority of the people in the 7 swing states, particularly Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, are going to go into that voting booth and say, you know what, I'm going to vote for a convicted felon. I don't think they'll do it. And I think when they're faced with that, the right result will occur, and that Joe Biden will win. We'll win the popular vote by over 10 million votes, but he'll win the Electoral College, and we will have preserved democracy. I think this is the first big step towards that.
And this provides a foundation that's different than other endless debates. A lot of people lie, and lying can be effective, meaning it can work, but over time it tends to fade. I could argue that in a lot of different settings. Here's someone who apparently lied. Speaker Mike Johnson in 2015 said what he meant, what he felt. Trump lacks the character and moral center needed in the White House. Now he says the opposite, and he made a pilgrimage down to the courthouse, which was especially tense and hypocritical for him because he's the one who warned that the lack of moral center, the type of thing you can be prosecuted for, was the problem, and here it's happening, Rob.
Yes, and you've got Marco Rubio. He's done a 180. You've got Ted Cruz when he campaigned against Trump. He's done a 180. Mitch McConnell. The list goes on and on and on of people who have said this man is a danger to democracy. He should not be president. He's unfit. He's psychopath, sociopath. He's a congenital liar. He's a, malignant narcissist, whatever you want to say about him. All these things have been said about him, and then they go and do the reverse because they care about their political skins more than anything else. And they're all, by the way, he's taken a wrecking ball to his party, and that party will suffer. But we must not let him take a wrecking ball to our Constitution and our democracy.
Rob Reiner, you had to wait your turn from Bob Woodward, but I don't think it's a bad depth chart. You maybe you're cleaning hit up. What do they call it? Cleaning?
Hitting cleanup.
Hitting cleanup. Hitting cleanup.
Yes,
you could tell it's been a long.
You know your rap references, but not so good with baseball.
I admit it. I admit it humbly and with baseball failure, but also a little legal reporting fatigue, if I'm being honest, Rob. It's been a long week.
You.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you. We will be right back.
When migraine strikes, you're faced with a choice. Accept the trade-offs of treating or push through the pain and symptoms. With Ubrelvy, there's another option. One dose quickly stops migraine in its tracks. Treat it anytime, anywhere, without worrying where you are or if it's too late. Do not take with strong CYP3A4 inhibitors. Allergic reactions to Ubrelvy can happen. Most common side effects were nausea and sleepiness. Migraine pain relief starts with you. Ask about Ubrelvy. Learn how AbbVie could help you save.
Smile, you found it. The feeling of finding psoriasis can't filter out the real you. So go ahead, live unfiltered with the one and only Sotyktu, a once-daily pill for moderate to severe plaque psoriasis and the chance at clear or almost clear skin. It's like the feeling of finding you're so ready for your close-up, or finding you don't have to hide your skin, just your background. Once daily Sotyktu was proven better, getting more people clearer skin than the leading pill. Don't take if you're allergic to Sotyktu. Serious reactions can occur. Sotyktu can lower your ability to fight infections, including TB. Serious infections, cancers including lymphoma, muscle problems, and changes in certain labs have occurred. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, liver or kidney problems, high triglycerides, or had a vaccine or plan to. Sotyktu is a TYK2 inhibitor. TYK2 is part of the JAK family. It's not known if Sotyktu has the same risks as JAK inhibitors. Find what plaque psoriasis has been hiding. There's only one Sotyktu, so ask for it by name. So clearly you. Sotyktu.
Stay tuned to save $10 on the TAC Light Max.
When it comes to technology, our military reigns supreme. They never use a flashlight with an inferior beam. They'd use something like this. The newest addition to our tactical line, the TAC Light Max from Bell & Howell. Lab certified at 50 times the brightness of regular flashlights. TAC Light Max can spotlight objects hundreds of feet away and be seen up to 5 nautical miles. That light lasts for hours, even on full brightness. It never needs batteries because it's rechargeable. TAC Light Max features 5 preset modes, an upgraded zoom, and a tactical strobe that can stun and disorient the strongest attacker. Plus, it takes durability to a whole new level. In freezing temperatures, a car battery will fail. But even inside this giant slab of ice, the TAC Light Max keeps on working. When it comes to performance, the Max is a real monster.
So, you know we had to do it. Let's run this light over with a monster truck. Now that's what I call military tough.
You definitely don't want to try that with a regular flashlight. And even though it's rugged and durable, it's lightweight and easy to hold. TAC Light Max is 50 times brighter than regular flashlights and more durable than ever before. It features 5 preset modes, lasts for hours, and never needs batteries because it's rechargeable. There's just nothing like it on the market today.
TAC Light Max is $29.99, but act now and we'll take $10 off, so you get it for just $19.99, and shipping is free. It never needs batteries because it's rechargeable and comes backed by our Bell & Howell 10-year warranty. But wait, while supplies last, you can even get a second one for 50% off. That's right. Order one TAC Light Max for $19.99, and you can get a second one for 50% off, plus free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-248-6476 or go to taclightmax.com. So call 1-800-248-6476. That's 1-800-248-6476 or order online at taclightmax.com.
The dentist will be right in.
Hey, I heard you're retiring soon. You excited?
Yeah, Doc, but there's so much to consider. Medicare, finances. Oh, and I lose my dental insurance.
You can get your own from Physicians Mutual. Easiest decision ever. It's real dental insurance that's real affordable. Well, I think my work here is done.
Wait, what?
Hey, I heard you're retiring soon. You excited?
Affordable dental insurance from Physicians Mutual Insurance Company. One of the easiest retirement decisions you can make. For a free information kit, call now. This dental insurance helps cover over 400 procedures. Everything from cleanings and fillings to crowns and dentures. See any dentist you want with no deductibles and no annual maximum.
Well, I think my work here is done.
Wait, what?
To get your free information kit with all the details, call now or visit sendinfokit.com.
Physicians Mutual, Physicians Mutual.
We've been covering a historic week and the conviction of Donald J. Trump, who now awaits sentencing scheduled for July. If you have thoughts or questions about all of this, you can always connect with me directly at arimelber.com. That's my name, arimelber.com. Connect with me, subscribe to my newsletter for my writing, or go at Ari Melber on social, or just keep watching MSNBC. Don't worry about the internet, whatever you prefer. Thanks for spending time with us as we experience history together.
A woman eats spaghetti.
When life spells heartburn, how do you spell relief? R-O-L-A-I-D-S. Rolaids dual active formula begins to neutralize acid on contact.
Chocolate cake is served.
Rolaids spells relief.
P&G.
My grandfather's run Meyer the Hatter for over 75 years now.
He's got so many life experiences that he can share. Finding the exact date on Ancestry that our family business was founded was special to share with my grandfather. Don't get that moment.